The night sky was quiet. There were no explosions, no signs of war. The stars shone brightly, as they always did, scattered across the vast darkness. For centuries, the universe had been peaceful, no threats, no dangers, just endless silence. But in the vast emptiness, something was stirring. It began as a strange signal. At first, it was faint, barely detectable by the galaxy's most advanced scanners. A series of numbers and symbols that didn't match any known language. The alien species, who ruled the galaxy, quickly dismissed it as a glitch in their systems. After all, nothing could possibly threaten them. They had spent millennia expanding their empire, conquering new worlds, and keeping their enemies at bay. They had no reason to fear. But then, the signal grew stronger. One by one, alien ships picked up the transmission. The message was clear now. It wasn't just a random string of data, it was a warning. A voice, cold and clear, echoed through the vastness of space. The words were simple, but they carried a weight that made the blood of those who heard it run cold. You have been warned. The time for diplomacy is over. Humanity will not fall. There was a long silence after the message ended. It was as if the entire galaxy held its breath. For a moment, no one spoke. The leaders of the galactic empire, the rulers of the galaxy, had received countless warnings in the past, some real, most not, but this one felt different. This one felt important. And yet, they could not understand why. Who sent this message? How did it reach them? No one knew. But one thing was clear, it came from Earth. Earth. The place many had forgotten. The small planet on the edge of the galaxy, once thought to be insignificant. For generations, the galaxy's elite had viewed humanity as a primitive species. They were weak, with no advanced technology, no army capable of standing up to the Empire. They were nothing. Or so they thought. But this message? This was something different. It didn't just speak of war. It spoke of something more, something darker. The voice in the message was not pleading for peace, nor was it a cry for help. It was a statement. A declaration. A warning that humanity had not only survived, but had changed. And the galaxy, so used to ruling without challenge, might now have something to fear. The Galactic Council quickly gathered. There was confusion, fear, and disbelief among them. The humans had been thought extinct. The great human fleets had vanished from the galaxy centuries ago, their ships left abandoned in the void. The Earth itself had been a myth, a forgotten world in the galaxy's vast history. Most had thought of humanity as no more than a memory, lost to time. But now, with the warning echoing through the stars, it was clear that the humans were not gone. They were very much alive. And they were not afraid. The council debated for hours, trying to make sense of what they had heard. Some suggested it was a trick, a hoax by some fringe faction of the human race. Others feared that it was the last desperate act of a dying species. But one thing they all agreed on was that the message was real, and the humans behind it were not to be taken lightly. Far away, on the edge of the galaxy, another message was being sent. This one was not a warning. It was a command. Humanity had been silent for so long. The galaxy had forgotten them, dismissed them as nothing more than a distant memory. But now, they were ready to remind the galaxy why they should never be forgotten. In the deepest parts of space, a small fleet of human ships began to assemble. These ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were sleek, fast, and deadly. And they weren't alone. In the heart of the fleet, the central command ship glowed with an eerie blue light. The humans were not coming to beg for their place in the galaxy. They were coming to take it back. The time for diplomacy had passed. The galaxy had ignored them for too long. And now, they were ready to show the galaxy what they were capable of. The alien races of the galaxy continued to argue, but no one knew what to do. They had always been in control. Now, they were unsure. They had never faced an enemy like this before. They had no idea how to fight something so unexpected, so unknown. The warning had shattered their certainty. The message from Earth was simple, yet its meaning was clear. Humanity was no longer the weak species they had once been. They were strong. They were ready. And they would not go down without a fight. As the galaxy's leaders tried to process the message, the humans' fleet continued to grow. The engines of their ships hummed softly in the dark, their lights shining through the vast expanse of space. Every day, more ships appeared, their technology a perfect mix of human ingenuity and something far more ancient, far more powerful. Something had changed on Earth, something that the galaxy had never expected. The galaxy's once feared leaders could only watch as the humans prepared to rise from the shadows. The message was just the beginning. What came next would change the universe forever. And it all began with the warning from the void. The silence that followed the message from Earth was not one of peace. It was a tense, nerve-wracking silence, as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath, waiting for anything to happen next. The Galactic Council, the governing body of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, had never been so uncertain. The message they had received was unlike anything they had ever dealt with before. As the council leaders debated, fear slowly crept into their hearts. They had never thought humanity a threat. The human race had been small, isolated, and technologically backward. But now, with that chilling warning from Earth still echoing in their minds, they weren't so sure. There was no sign of weakness, no sign of panic, just cold confidence. Whoever sent that message had a purpose, and they were not afraid to act. In the council chambers, alien species from all corners of the galaxy gathered to discuss the implications of the message. The Zorvans, with their 6 eyes and sharp minds, were the first to speak. "We cannot ignore this," said their leader, Zarloth. "The humans may have been weak in the past, but this is something different. They are no longer the insignificant species we once thought them to be." The Vrelians, a race known for their immense size and strength, grumbled in agreement. "We should send a fleet to Earth, wipe them out before they can do anything." "Show them their place," said their general, Krithgar. But not everyone agreed. The Elverians, a race of ancient beings with a deep understanding of the cosmos, were more cautious. "We know nothing about their capabilities," their leader, Elzar, warned. "It's a mistake to underestimate them. We cannot afford to be reckless. We must prepare for something greater." The debate raged on for hours, with no clear answer emerging. While some pushed for immediate action, others advised a more measured approach. But as time passed, the fear of the unknown grew stronger, and the decision to send a fleet of warships to investigate Earth became inevitable. Across the galaxy, the various factions began to prepare for war, each sending their best commanders, their most advanced ships, and their most powerful fleets. But they were not prepared for what awaited them. Meanwhile, far from the political maneuvering of the galaxy's leaders, something was happening on Earth. Humanity had been silent for centuries, living in the shadows of the galaxy, forgotten by most, but not all. The time for hiding was over. In a remote, hidden military facility on Earth, Preparations were underway. The leaders of humanity had received the warning loud and clear. They understood that their message had been heard, but they also knew it was only the beginning. The galaxy would respond, and they had to be ready. The humans were not just preparing to defend themselves, they were preparing to strike. The fleet that had been silently growing for months was ready. It was massive, made up of ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They were sleek, powerful, and equipped with weapons of unimaginable destruction. But what made these ships truly terrifying was not just their firepower, it was their speed and precision. They were designed to be quick and efficient, to strike before the enemy could react. But the humans didn't rely on just their ships. They had something else, something far more dangerous, a secret weapon. Deep within the heart of the fleet, hidden away in the most secure location, was the last of humanity's greatest creation. It was an ancient ship, one that had been lost for centuries. It had been abandoned long ago, but it had never been destroyed. It had remained hidden, waiting for the day it would be needed again. And that day had come. The human fleet gathered in the outer reaches of the solar system, preparing to leave the safety of their home and venture into the unknown. Their mission was simple: make sure the galaxy knew they were back, and that they were not to be taken lightly. The stars above Earth began to shimmer as the fleet's engines hummed to life. The ships moved in perfect harmony, a well-coordinated dance of technology and strategy. There was no hesitation, no fear. Only purpose. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the leaders were still making plans, unaware that the humans were already on the move. They believed their fleet would easily overpower whatever Earth had sent, that they would be able to destroy the human threat before it could grow. But they were wrong. The first human ship broke free of Earth's atmosphere, its engines roaring as it sped into the dark expanse of space. It was followed by another, and then another, until the entire fleet had departed. They moved with a speed and grace that left the alien fleets in awe, but also in fear. These were not the clumsy, slow-moving ships the galaxy was used to. These were ships that could strike in an instant, and then vanish before the enemy could react. As the human fleet made its way toward the edge of the galaxy, the first alien ships began to arrive. The Empire's fleet, massive and imposing, hovered on the edge of Earth's orbit, ready to strike. The leaders of the Galactic Empire believed they had the upper hand. After all, they were the most powerful force in the galaxy. But they didn't know the full story. The humans had been preparing for this moment for a long time. They had learned, adapted, and built. They had outgrown their weaknesses, and now, they were ready to make their mark on the galaxy. The gathering storm was only beginning, and soon, the galaxy would realize that humanity had not only survived but had come back stronger than ever before. The message from Earth was clear: you have been warned. And the galaxy would soon understand just how serious that warning truly was. The galaxy was on edge. Alien fleets, once confident in their dominance, now hesitated. The once quiet regions of space where humans once lived forgotten and dismissed had become the center of a rising storm. The Galactic Council, still reeling from the eerie message from Earth, found themselves scrambling to make sense of what was unfolding. In the cold, dark depths of space, the human fleet moved swiftly, silently. The first few ships had left Earth's atmosphere unnoticed by most of the galaxy's leaders, but now, the size of the fleet was undeniable. The humans had prepared in secret for years, hidden in the shadows of space, and now they were rising from that very silence, making their way toward the galactic frontier. At first, there had been only a few ships, small, sleek, and unassuming. But as more ships emerged from the depths of space, it became clear, This was not a small faction. This was an army. A force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Council's leaders looked on in disbelief as they realized the magnitude of what they were facing. The ships were unlike anything they had encountered. Their design was alien in its own right, sharp, angular, and purposeful. They weren't just fast. They were incredibly efficient. Each ship in the fleet seemed to have been built for one thing only, to strike, and then disappear before anyone could react. The first attack came swiftly and without warning. A small group of human warships appeared out of nowhere, deep within the heart of an alien-controlled system. The alien fleet stationed there, proud and sure of their strength, barely had time to register the presence of the human ships before they were under attack. The humans didn't announce their arrival with a barrage of blasts. No, they were far too precise for that. They hit their target with surgical accuracy. The alien fleet's command ship, the heart of the entire system, was destroyed in a single, devastating blow. The attack was so sudden, so precise, that the aliens couldn't react. By the time they realized they were under fire, the human ships were already gone, fading into the vastness of space. In the Galactic Council's war room, panic began to spread. The report came in quickly: the human fleet had struck, and they had struck hard. No one knew where they had come from, or how they managed to strike so fast. The Council quickly ordered their fleet commanders to prepare for battle, but the fear was palpable. They had underestimated the humans. And now, they were paying the price. The humans had been quiet for so long. Their disappearance had been complete, a mystery that no one had bothered to solve. Now, with a single strike, they had proven that they were far from gone. They were back, and they were no longer the weak, primitive species the galaxy had once thought them to be. The warships of the Empire, the most powerful in the galaxy, had been caught off guard. They were not used to fighting such precise and unpredictable tactics. The humans didn't engage in massive, drawn-out battles. They struck in quick, lightning-fast raids, leaving their enemies stunned and disoriented. And just when it seemed like the enemy would catch up, the humans would disappear again, slipping back into the darkness of space. It wasn't just the ships that were frightening. It was their strategy. The humans seemed to know their enemies better than they knew themselves. They hit where it hurt the most, cutting off supply lines, disabling communication networks, and striking at the heart of the Empire's infrastructure. It was as if they had been preparing for this moment for centuries. But what terrified the Galactic Council the most was that the humans didn't seem to be after domination. They weren't trying to conquer the galaxy. They weren't interested in ruling over others. No, they were something much worse: they were avengers. They were fighting for something deeper, something personal. Back on Earth, the leaders of humanity gathered in their underground bunkers, watching the strikes unfold on their monitors. They had waited for this moment, prepared for it, and now, it was time to see the results. They had one goal in mind: to make the galaxy understand that humanity would never again be overlooked. The fleet continued to move, silently and efficiently, as more ships joined the ranks. The humans were not retreating. They were not hiding. They were moving forward, spreading across the galaxy with one simple message: we are here. And we are not going anywhere. The Empire, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, could only watch as their fleets were torn apart, one strike at a time. Their attempts to retaliate were futile. The humans were always one step ahead, always one move away from complete victory. With each attack, the Galactic Council grew more desperate. They knew that the humans were not just coming for revenge, they were coming to make sure the galaxy never forgot the lessons of the past. The first battle had been won by humanity, but it was far from over. The galaxy would learn that the humans had returned, not as a species to be ignored, but as a force that could change the entire balance of power. And with every fleet that fell before them, the message grew clearer. Humanity had never left. And soon, the galaxy would be forced to understand that they were not dealing with the weak, forgotten humans of the past. They were dealing with something far more terrifying, a species that had learned, adapted, and come back to take what was rightfully theirs. The storm was gathering, and the galaxy would soon see just how powerful humanity had truly become. The first wave of strikes had been swift, almost surgical. But as the weeks passed, the tension in the galaxy continued to rise. The humans' tactics had stunned the galaxy's leaders, and it was clear that this was no longer a minor rebellion or some forgotten faction trying to survive. No, humanity had returned stronger, more prepared, and far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The Galactic Empire's leaders scrambled to regroup. They had never faced an enemy like this. Their fleets were massive, their firepower unmatched, but the humans didn't fight like anyone else in the galaxy. The human ships were elusive, almost ghost-like, appearing without warning, striking with precision, and then disappearing into the void before anyone could react. Their attacks left no time for counter-offensives. It was as if they knew exactly where to strike, when to strike, and how to vanish before retaliation could even begin. The Galactic Council tried to rally their forces, sending fleet after fleet to the front lines. But every time they arrived, the humans were already gone. The warships of the Empire would emerge from hyperspace, only to find their prey had slipped through their fingers, leaving behind nothing but the ruins of their once imposing stations and fleets. The military leaders of the Empire were frustrated. Every plan they made fell apart. No strategy seemed to work. Meanwhile, in the shadows, humanity's secret weapon was being readied. Deep within their fleet, the last of humanity's greatest creation had been activated, the ship that had been lost to time, a relic of a past long forgotten. Its engines hummed to life, and its weapons systems powered up. The ship's design was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its power was beyond comprehension, capable of wiping out entire fleets in the blink of an eye. But it wasn't just its firepower that made it terrifying, it was the ship's AI, a sophisticated, ancient intelligence, far more advanced than anything the Empire could imagine. The humans knew that they had to act fast. They had already made their mark on the galaxy, but this was only the beginning. The Empire was beginning to retaliate in force, and while the humans had the advantage, they knew that they couldn't keep this up forever. They needed to strike at the heart of the Empire where its power truly lay. And so, the plan was set in motion. The human fleet, with its hidden weapon now at the forefront, moved towards the Empire's strongest defenses. The fleet's commanders had calculated every move, and the Empire had no idea what was coming. The human ships were stealthy, swift, and powerful, but now, they were about to unleash their greatest surprise. The moment arrived without warning. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace above the Empire's largest and most well-defended station. It was a hub of the galaxy's most vital resources, a strategic point that the Empire could not afford to lose. The station was massive, its outer defenses equipped with the latest weapons and shields, its corridors teeming with troops. The Empire's leaders were confident that no one could breach its walls. But the humans had planned for this. And the reckoning had come. The first wave of human ships appeared, not in a massive assault, but in a single, calculated strike. The Empire's outer defenses were torn apart in seconds. The humans didn't waste time with unnecessary combat. They focused on the weak points, the blind spots in the station's defense network. In a matter of minutes, the station's communications were down, its shields shattered. The Empire's commanders had no idea what hit them. Within moments, the human ships were inside, striking at the heart of the station. The once unshakable Empire was now in disarray. The humans had breached the core defenses with ease, and there was no one left to stop them. Their attack was swift, brutal, and precise. The station's corridors echoed with the sound of destruction as the human forces tore through its heart. But the true terror came when the ancient human ship, the one that had been hidden for so long, emerged from the shadows. It was enormous, dwarfing the other ships in the fleet. Its weapons powered up, and a single blast was enough to send shockwaves through the entire station. The Empire's finest defenses couldn't withstand the onslaught. The once proud station began to crumble, its massive walls buckling under the relentless assault. Inside the station, panic spread like wildfire. The Empire's forces tried to fight back, but it was too late. Their weapons couldn't reach the humans' ships in time, and their defenses had already failed. The human fleet continued to strike with ruthless efficiency, cutting down everything in their path. It wasn't just a battle anymore, it was a message. A statement to the galaxy that humanity was no longer weak. They were no longer the forgotten species on the edge of the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with. And they were here to stay. As the Empire's last defenses fell, the message was clear: humanity would not fall. The galaxy would have to reckon with them now. The once impervious Empire, so sure of their strength, had been brought to its knees by a species they had thought was no threat. But the humans had learned, adapted, and come back stronger than anyone could have imagined. The leaders of the Galactic Empire were left in shock, unsure of what to do next. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The reckoning had come, and it wasn't over yet. Humanity's message to the galaxy echoed through the void: we are not gone. We are not weak. And we will never kneel. The stars, once silent, now seemed to tremble with the fury of Earth's return. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Galactic Empire had never faced anything like this. For centuries, they had been the dominant force in the galaxy, powerful, unyielding, and feared by all. But now, everything was crumbling around them. Their fleets had been shattered, their defenses broken, and their once mighty empire was unraveling at the seams. And it was all because of humanity. The humans, once dismissed as a minor race, a myth even, had turned the tables. With their relentless strikes, their unpredictable tactics, and their overwhelming technology, they had made the galaxy sit up and take notice. The Empire, so confident in its strength, now found itself cornered, facing an enemy it couldn't understand or defeat. As the final battle loomed on the horizon, the Empire's leaders gathered in their war rooms, watching as their forces continued to falter. Their last remaining fleets, the most powerful in the galaxy, were all that stood between humanity and total victory. But even these fleets were no match for what the humans had unleashed. Far from the Empire's headquarters, the human fleet was preparing for its final push. The once forgotten ships, sleek and deadly, now gleamed with an intensity that matched the resolve of those who commanded them. Humanity had one final goal: to strike at the heart of the Empire and deliver a message that the galaxy would never forget. At the center of the human fleet, the ancient ship, the one humanity had been hiding for centuries, was ready. Its massive engines hummed with power, its weapons locked and loaded. The AI on board, an ancient intelligence of unparalleled capability, was fully activated. It was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's defiance, a reminder to the galaxy that Earth would never be silenced again. The Empire's leaders were making their last stand in the heart of their stronghold, the capital world of the Empire. They believed that if they could hold on here, they could regroup and fight back. But they had underestimated the humans. There was no escape now. As the human fleet advanced toward the capital world, the Empire's commanders scrambled to organize their defenses. The last of their warships, their most powerful weapons, lined up for the final confrontation. But despite their strength, they knew deep down that they were fighting a losing battle. The humans had changed the game. They had taken their time, learned from their past mistakes, and adapted. Now, they were prepared for anything. The Empire had never known an enemy so resourceful, so relentless. The humans had no interest in honor or glory. They had only one goal, to ensure their survival, to remind the galaxy that humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. The moment the battle began, it was clear that the Empire's fate had already been sealed. The human fleet moved like a storm, fast and unforgiving. Their attacks were calculated, every move designed to disrupt, to destroy. No counteroffensive could keep up with their pace. The Empire's ships were outclassed, outmaneuvered, and outmatched. And then, at the heart of the chaos, the ancient human ship fired. The blast was so powerful, it tore through the center of the Empire's defenses like a blade through soft metal. Entire fleets were obliterated in an instant. The shock wave of the attack rattled the capital world, sending tremors through the very foundation of the Empire. The capital's defenses collapsed, and the once invincible empire was left in ruins. The leaders of the Galactic Empire, who had once held the fate of the galaxy in their hands, now found themselves powerless. They had no more ships, no more strength to fight. They had been undone by a species they had once thought beneath them. The human fleet, having completed its mission, pulled back as quickly as it had arrived. The message was clear, the Empire was no more. Humanity had sent the galaxy one final, unshakable message. We will not fall. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the remnants of the Empire faded into nothingness. The stars, once silent witnesses to the rise of a galactic empire, now bore witness to its collapse. The universe had changed. Humanity, once thought to be a fading memory, had returned not just to survive, but to thrive. They had claimed their place in the galaxy, and they had made sure that no one would ever forget their name again. The galaxy would never be the same. The Empire was gone, and with it, the old order. A new era had begun, one where humanity would no longer be overlooked. They had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with, and they would shape the future of the galaxy as they saw fit. And as the stars glimmered above, one thing was certain, humanity had earned their place among the stars. And no one would dare forget it.